right. Well, welcome today. My name is Bridget O'Shea. I'm the Compliance Manager for the Department of Procurement Services at the City of Chicago. And today I'm going to be talking to you about our department and more specifically to the compliance documentation. Again, the title of this workshop is Compliance Documentation 101. What our department does is we are responsible for procuring the goods and services for the City of Chicago, for the city to operate, essentially. So our customers are the city departments, and this makes up over 30 different city departments, including aviation, CDOT, water, and of course our vendor community as well that we do business with. Our procurement department is split off into 3 different divisions. Those divisions are the contract administration side, the certification side that certifies the minority, women-owned, or disadvantaged businesses for the City of Chicago, and then of course the compliance unit. So we, at the end of the day, big picture, we look at to ensure that prime contractors are utilizing minority and women-owned businesses in really holding on to the commitments and the contract requirements that they agreed to as being part of that contract. Before I go any further, just to get an idea from you guys, are you a certified firm? What brings you here today? I should say that. Okay, wonderful.
I work with clients that have certifications, and I'm looking to get a certification myself.
Awesome. So compliance is obviously a pivotal role as far as when a certified firm participates on a contract, which obviously is what everyone wants. There are certification workshops of how to get certified, and now you're certified, now what? So I would encourage you guys at the end of today's session to look at the workshop schedule for upcoming events as it pertains to certification. And we'll go from there. Okay. So let's see if my clicker works. There we go. All right. So the City of Chicago is committed to the growth and development of small, minority, and women-owned businesses. And we continuously are pursuing every opportunity to ensure the city's procurement department or our process remains fair, inclusive, transparent, as well as efficient. I don't know where I should be pointing the... There we go. Okay. So contract compliance is a pivotal component at DPS. It includes a 3-step process, which we're going to talk about in detail. The first is contract goal setting. And so before a contract is actually awarded, we are reviewing the compliance portion of the bids and proposals that come in. And we're looking to essentially assess how a vendor intends on meeting those commitments or requirements for the contract as it pertains to the utilization of a minority or women-owned business. Or the overall goals, I should say. And then, of course, once the contract is awarded, our compliance unit monitors the compliance of the contract, right? So we are looking at the EEO, the Equal Employment Opportunity, the Chicago Residency, and sometimes there's the local residency requirements or project area requirements associated with a contract. And then, of course, we manage the contract closeout. So, I apologize. Contract goals are set on a project-by-project basis. Our contract administration reviews the MBE, WB, or DBE direct opportunities that are identified on that scope of work that's detailed out in the specification. And contract goals are then inserted into that specific specification. The goals can range anywhere from 0%, which is a no stated goals, all the way to 100%, which is then considered a target market solicitation. Okay. Then you have a proper compliance plan submittal. Now keep in mind, a bid or proposal may be rejected as non-responsive if the bidder fails to submit one or more of the following items with its bid. The first and foremost is the compliance plan, MBE, WBE, or if it's a DBE compliance plan, directly demonstrating how it intends on meeting those contract goals. Documentation of good faith efforts, and then, if needed, a request for a reduction or a full waiver of those contract-specific goals. So let's talk about the schedules. So these are common schedules that you may be familiar with already or will become familiar with in the future. The first is the Schedule B, and this is the MBE, WBE, or DBE affidavit of a joint venture. The Schedule C. The Schedule C is the letter of intent that the minority, woman-owned, or disadvantaged business fills out. It's their letter of intent to perform as a subcontractor or a supplier or a second-tier sub specific to that project. If you're going to walk away with anything today, remember this and pass this on to those that you work with, is a Schedule C should only be filled out by that specific vendor, that certified firm. The prime bidder should not be filling it out. No one else should be filling it out because, again, it's the letter of intent that subcontractor has outlining the goods or services they plan on providing, the dollar amount of which they've come to an agreement with, and it's their signature on it. And also, never sign a blank Schedule C. And I know it seems basic where none of us would sign a blank check, but I treat Schedule Cs like a blank check. You don't ever want to sign a blank Schedule C. It's also important to include your certification letters. So your certification letters outline, one, that you're certified, two, it identifies the area of specialty or various specialties that you're certified to perform in. That certification that you have or will have is assigned to NAICS code or multiple NAICS codes. So that's how you get credit, participation credit, counted towards contract-specific goals performing as a MBE or a WBE. So having an updated, valid certification letter that outlines your NAICS codes, your area of specialty that you're certified in, is important that you would submit with your Schedule C. The Schedule D is the compliance plan. So sometimes people will say compliance plan, some people will say Schedule D. The two are synonymous with each other, but for purposes of schedules and discussing it, the Schedule D is in fact the compliance plan that the bidder fills out. And the bidder is filling this out, outlining the vendors, the certified firms that they plan on utilizing for that specific project. It outlines the company name, the dollar amount, and a general description of what they plan on doing. So that's how the bidder is submitting this at the time. You look like you have a question. No? Sorry. Okay. And the Schedule H. The Schedule H is your documentation of good faith effort. So again, you know, if it's absolutely needed and you are unable to achieve the goal of utilizing of meeting the minority or woman-owned goals that are specific to that project, then we would want to see those good faith efforts. Who did that bidder reach out to? What steps did they take in trying to come to an agreement with a certified firm to perform on that project? So we want to know the list of firms that they've reached out to, the contacts, copies of emails, did they reach out to assist agencies? All of that is part of that documentation of a good faith effort. Okay. So here's where the fun begins. The contract is awarded. Contract is awarded, and our contract monitoring begins in compliance. So again, we have a shared responsibility in partnering with the user departments in monitoring the participation for the certified firms participating on the contracts, whether it be MBE, WBE, or DBE firms. And I apologize that I go back and forth with saying acronyms, DBEs and WBEs, so I'll pay attention. And then again, we are responsible for monitoring the equal employment opportunity, the Chicago residency, and the local residency requirements. So the Chicago residency ordinance is specific to, and again, if the contract calls for it, 50% of the workforce performing on a contract has to come from a Chicago resident, right? Sometimes there are construction projects where we have project area residency requirements, where at a minimum, 7.5% of that workforce has to come from those, the community area in which the work is being performed or the surrounding areas as well. So we're looking to see, you know, the workforce and who's actually participating on it at various levels throughout the contract. Okay, so counting participation, and this is helpful, again, for you as someone who's seeking certification or someone who's already certified, is how the city counts participation. So again, we're gonna start with the basics of a certified firm has to meet both the commercially useful function and area of specialty requirements that are counted towards the contract-specific goals. So again, the area of specialty is what you're certified to perform in. You've become certified as a landscaper, you're a landscaping company, you're doing landscape work. And so we need to verify your certification is in line with the work that you plan on performing for a contract where we count credit. The commercially useful function element of that is, are you managing your own workforce? Are you utilizing your own supplies and tools? Is it you actually doing the work and independent of any other contractor, more or less? So if you're an MBE, WBE, or DBE contractor that is self-performing, we're counting that as 100% value of the work that you're performing towards those goals. If you're a manufacturer, again, 100% of the value of that is counted towards those contract-specific goals. Where it gets tricky, and people forget this, is suppliers. Suppliers, we only count at 60%. So if you're a prime contractor and you are purchasing $100 worth of goods from me, I'm supplying you with those goods, I'm certified to sell you those goods, we have that $100 agreement, the City of Chicago will only give you credit, participation credit for utilizing me for $60 of that. Are there any questions about that? That's a great question that everyone wants an answer to. Really, we want to see people working. We want to see you performing on a project. I wouldn't want to see 100% of minority or woman goals being achieved because you've purchased supplies, right? So it's a bigger picture. And we follow the federal regulations on that as well. So, yeah. Any other questions? All right. So your subcontract agreements, no later than 3 business days after the receipt of the executed contract, the contractor must complete a subcontract agreement or purchase order with each MBE or WB or DBE firm that's listed on their compliance plan, on their Schedule D. And then obviously we need it, compliance needs it. Additionally, no later than 8 business days after the receipt of the executed contract, the contractor must provide the copies of each signed subcontract agreement to our department. Okay, compliance plans. Compliance plans should not change unless they have been given prior approval by our CPO. So a request to change a compliance plan that's already been submitted and approved requires 1, a request, and 2, an approval from our Chief Procurement Officer. So let's put this out there. If I am performing as a WB contractor and you are the prime, I'm picking on you, I'm sorry. You're the prime contractor and we're working together and everything's going smooth, but then you find someone else who could perform for half the amount that's also certified, and you decide, I don't need Bridget anymore, I'm going to go with this firm. You can't kick me off. It needs to be, you need to make that request for a compliance plan change, and it would be reviewed as far as whether or not that change of compliance is acceptable or not. Documentation is important. So knowing that, and some of these things we think it applies at the prime level, but you as a subcontractor, you as a certified M or W performing, this is your protection as well of, you know, your rights and responsibilities as performing. Let's see, I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent. Everything must be submitted in writing, and in turn, it would be approved in writing. So it's never going to be a phone call, hey, this company went out of business, I'm going to use this other company, which is a valid reason to change your compliance plan. Again, everything has to be documented, and a written request comes into our unit. Unauthorized changes or substitutions, and when I say change, it could be a change meaning you've added more, meaning you're going to exceed your commitment and you're adding more minority or woman-owned businesses. You're changing, meaning a substitution. A company's gone out of business and now you need to replace them, otherwise damages can occur. All of that has to be done in writing and agreed to prior to you actually doing it, prior to it actually being done. Because in the end, if it's done without our approval, it could be a breach of contract with the city, and it can result in a termination of the contract. So it's very important that that procedure is followed. Okay, so the reporting. So during the term of the contract, the contractor must submit partial and final waivers of lien from all of their subs. The subcontractors, as well as the prime contractors, are responsible for reporting payments into C2, our city certification and compliance system that we utilize. Additionally, the prime and sub submit their certified payroll records into our certified payroll processing system, also known as LCP tracker. And so I know I'm giving a lot of acronyms and I apologize. So again, C2 is our certification and compliance system where contractors are reporting and or confirming payments. And then we have LCP tracker, and that is where payroll, certified payroll records are being reported by contractors performing on a contract. Our C2 system, so at the end of this workshop, there's another workshop that begins at 3:15. It's for C2. It goes more in depth as far as payment tracking. I don't know if you plan on staying or not. So we definitely will go into more detail on this, but on a very high level, again, it is an online system. We're tracking payments. The prime contractor has to report the payments that are paid to the subcontractors that are performing. Those subcontractors that they're reporting payments to have to either accept it or reject it, or confirm it or deny it, right? So if you report that you paid me $1,000 and I say, whoa, 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 I only got a $500 from you, that would result in a discrepancy where we would have to dig a little deeper. You could have paid me $1,000, $500 for 1 month, $500 for another, and reported it as one. Or you could have not paid me at all and have been reporting something. So again, it's important not only at the prime level that they're reporting payments, but at the sub level that you're confirming that you've actually received those. So in case there is ever an issue of payment and how quickly you're being paid as at the subcontractor level, we have that as a way of tracking as well. Again, it's all about the verification of payments by the contractors, by your MW or DBE contractors. And those are specific to the contractors that are listed on the compliance plan. Site visits. We have field analysts. Our field analysts conduct site visits, announced and unannounced site visits to various sites. They work with our resident engineers, our project managers, and essentially they're out there not only observing the work that's being performed, but they're conducting employee interviews. So they're talking to your employees. They are completing cuff reviews, which is a commercially useful function. Again, are you using your own equipment? Are you using your own workforce? What is the relationship? And how independent are you as far as performing on this project? So they're conducting that, and it really is important for everyone to understand at every level, whether it be employees that are working on a job site to project managers, foremen, that they need to cooperate with our field analysts when they're out there conducting those visits. LCP Tracker. So this is our certified payroll processing system. Are you familiar with LCP Tracker at all, or no? Okay. I already talked with them, so I know they're not. So this is our software that we use to manage our labor compliance, our Davis-Bacon, and the prevailing wage process. So each project has wages that are attached to it, specific wages and classifications based off of the funding type, the time period that the contract was awarded, and in turn, contractors are having to, are responsible to report their payroll for their employees into the system. A lot of the software that companies use for their own payroll, the two systems can talk to each other and basically export the records. So there are different enhancements like that within the system. If errors are detected with wage rates or the classifications that are used, those entries are flagged to notify the contractor that it needs to be resolved before it could actually be certified. So we no longer collect the paper payroll. Everything is submitted through the system and reviewed that way. We certainly can and do audit, and we'll ask for payroll records and canceled checks and all of that, but this is the starting point. And then contract closeout. This is a big slide, and I really don't like reading from slides, but I'm going to right now because it's important. In the event of non-compliance and without limitation, the following items constitute a material breach of the contract and in essence can entitle the city to declare a default, terminate the contractor, and exercise those remedies within the contract at law or in equity. That includes failure to demonstrate good faith efforts, the disqualification as an MBE or WBE of the contractor or any joint venture partner, sub or supplier if their status as an MBE or WBE was a factor in awarding the contract and that was a status misrepresentation by the contractor. Important stuff. Whole lot of words that mean a lot. So basically, at the end of the day, you know, we have the right to terminate a contract, send out an event of default notice, and exercise any of those remedies if there's ever a misrepresentation of the contract terms, or of course, the good faith efforts, right? And we talked about that a little bit earlier. Additionally, part of that, this big slide, is payments due to the contractor may be withheld until corrective action is taken. If we determine that the contractor has not, in fact, made good faith efforts to fulfill its compliance plan, the affected MBE or WB may be able to recover damages from the contractor. Failing to meet the EEO or CRO or local residency requirements can also result in liquidated damages. So contract closeout is very important, and obviously we're monitoring it throughout the duration of the contract, but at the end of the day, these are important things, especially contractors look out because there's damages associated to it, or it can be, I should say. So this concludes my presentation, but now it's time for questions. And I apologize, I know you came in late, so before we began, I was asked just to get a feel for the attendees. Are you a certified firm, or what is your role? What's going on?
I represent the firm,
Mm-hmm.
Trucking.
Okay. All right. So they perform on contracts, city contracts? Got it. Got it. You have a question?
Toward the end, at step 3, contract closeout, if I am a supplier, how does this relate to me? Can you explain further, you know, if I'm a supplier, food supplier?
How it relates to the contract closeout?
Yes. So like, am I responsible as a supplier to a company that has contract already? So I am responsible also for providing all this documentation?
It depends on the agreement and the contract language. So is there a specific contract that you're referring to that's already in place?
No, not yet.
Okay.
That's about.
So this is, and I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, and let me, before I go any further, I want to introduce you. I have our two officers here with us. We have April Johnson as well as Gwen Dancy, and they work with me closely in our compliance unit. So I brought them here too to help with any questions. But go ahead.
For food? Yes.
So you're a food supplier?
Yes.
Certified?
I'm looking into obtaining certification right now.
So
Women's own business.
yes. So if you're not currently certified, participation credit would not be counted towards your participation on that contract because you're not currently certified. They could.
She works with a prime contractor.
Mhm.
Like, say for instance, she's hired by the prime, she's a subcontractor. Does she have to do any closeout? Like, does she give information to the prime?
No, so I see. So yeah, the final waivers, right? And those should be coming. The reporting of payments. So utilizing the C2 system, you would have to confirm those payments. It wouldn't be reporting, it would be confirming payments as a subcontractor. And the other element is, yes, always be ready because our compliance unit may ask you for additional documentation. We may ask you whether it be for waivers, for payroll, for invoices, anything of the sort that may come up as part of our contract closeout process. But as far as not being a certified firm and participating, that prime vendor would not receive participation credit from utilizing a firm that's not certified and not part of the compliance plan. Because essentially, we wouldn't approve a compliance plan with firms that are not certified as a MRW. I hope that answers your question. So, okay. Do you have a question?
I have a question about, the site, the C2 site about the online tracking.
Yes.
And, you had said they reported that they paid $1,000, but you only got 500. Is there a way to check that on the site as a subcontractor?
Yes. Yes. So for each contract that is in the system, are you staying for the next workshop? Maybe. Okay. Okay. Well, it'll be on YouTube later. You could tune it at home. So essentially, the contract is in C2. The contractor, the vendors that are participating on that contract all have access to C2. At the very least, they should. If they don't, that's problematic, and I'll give you my card before you go. They have, because each contract is different. So each payment is specific to that contract. But if I'm working with you on 5 different contracts and you paid me $1,000, but it's $100 for this contract, $200 for that one, $800 for that, my math didn't add up, but you know, it has to be broken out and confirmed, reported and confirmed appropriately by both the prime and the subcontractor. But there is definitely a way that they should be able to, that they should be reviewing those payments. Because if they're not confirming it, we're reaching out to you saying, hey, did you receive payment? Confirm it in the system, log in, confirm, or not if it's problematic.
Can you, when a client gets a contract, can you, say for instance, I'm just starting out, go to that person who won the bid or whatever, because I looked up different people who won bids, and there's a lot of the same people. Do they typically use the same people, or can you go to them and say, you know, I'm this supplier?
Yeah. That's a really good question. So events like this, despite our turnout today, but events like this, our workshops are a good opportunity to meet with prime contractors. We have various workshops and seminars throughout the year that we, City of Chicago, host. We just had our vendor fair last month. So that's another opportunity to introduce yourself, you know, so to put your name out there, of course. You could stop. What? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm doing it. Okay.
What other events besides the vendors fair that was just on the 24th?
There's monthly, there are different events. Are you signed up for our DPS alerts? So you should be getting those alerts through DPS, our city website, the construction summit, the big vendor fair we just had. Other agencies also have them as well. So looking on the site for upcoming ones, I would encourage you, before you leave today, both of you, to take the buying plan so you see what those upcoming opportunities are, to see if there's any area that you as a certified firm could fit into in some way or another. But attending those events is definitely helpful.
I had a question about the changes to the compliance plan.
Mm-hmm.
You said that the vendor could submit a change to the compliance plan, say for instance they found someone cheaper.
don't like that.
Could they be allowed to do that?
No,
though?
no.
Because if I signed up to
That's
work
right.
with you and I'm planned out my time for
Right.
3 months, and then all of a sudden you find someone cheaper.
Yes.
That's not fair.
It's not fair, and it's considered bid shopping. Yeah. So the compliance plan, again, is the Schedule D. It's an actual legal document that bidder submits at the time of bid that outlines their commitment to how they're achieving those contract-specific goals. And regardless of the need to change vendors, the firms that they've subcontracted and have agreements with, it all has to be approved. And believe me, I mean, there are times when a vendor can come to us and request a substitution request where, you know what, we were going to work and partner with this firm, and at the time they were able to, but now summer's picked up, and when we need them, they're out on these 10 other projects and they don't have capacity. We need to change vendors. That's one, a valid reason, but two, I'm going to reach out to that company and say, hey, are you passing up this work? What is really going on, to verify and confirm that before that's approved. There are some circumstances that make it a legitimate request, and some that are not, to be honest. But we look at and review in entirety each substitution or change of compliance plan in entirety. Gwen, do you have anything that you would want to add to that?
Like Bridget stated, we do verify, we also get it in writing from both parties before we actually do the substitution request. If it's anybody from it, before we actually go through it.
Yeah, because the last thing you want is to think you have a contract and then What other questions?
Explain the documentation of good faith efforts. So on construction projects, they're going out to get subcontractors, and so they have to report to you once they've contacted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So for construction projects in particular, there's the Schedule H, and they have to outline the name of the company, the person they spoke with or reached out to, phone number, email address. We want to see all correspondence that was sent to them. We will reach out to them to verify that in fact has happened. And that's only one element of demonstrating good faith efforts. Other elements are sometimes contractors will have networking events or workshops held at their offices, for contracts that they are planning on bidding. And so one, that's an opportunity of involvement for you, but two, we want to know if they held that. We want a copy of the sign-in sheet. We want to know when it was held versus when bids were due, right? If you held a workshop 2 days before bid opening, I don't think that's fair for a subcontractor to put together a bid or a proposal and turn around, that quickly. Reaching out to assist agencies, that's a big deal. We want to ensure that contractors are reaching out to our assist agencies who are working closely with our certified firms to, again, see, are there any opportunities out there, and putting it out there, those requests. So it goes beyond that Schedule H. At a minimum, that's what is required. But there's a lot more documentation that we would want to see. I haven't heard from you. No, but at 3 o'clock, someone will be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where the individual has actually taken pictures of those individuals that have been in the seminars.
Yep.
For proof, also with the sign-in sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Also with the individuals who may have trained in them stated, a lot of documentation, also whatever pamphlets that were passed out, and then also if they're giving out certificates for training, they're with it. So as she stated, there is a lot of layers in that good faith effort that goes along with it.
Yep.
When a bid is put out, how far in advance does it get put out, and then how far in advance is that person chosen, that company chosen?
That all depends. I can't really speak to that because, again, from compliance, we are looking at contracts after bids come in. The lowest responsive bidders, those are the compliance reviews that we're reviewing, and then we are beginning our contract monitoring at the time of the award. There are times when you could see something advertised for quite a while, and other times it's, maybe 30 days. That's why the buying plans are going to be helpful for you, because it's a forecast over the next 15 months of what's coming up. And that's released quarterly. So it's continuously being updated, and it's updated to reflect not only us, but Cook County also participates, and several other agencies, so it's not limited to just the city of Chicago. April, do you want to run upstairs to get George for me? Please, thank you.
The
You could cut it
recording
off.
is finished, right?
Yes,
Okay.
you're free.